Everything is well documented and scientific proven fact. Yes, my personal opinions colour the story. And yes, everyone's stories are different, especially the young from the old. There are many who consider me to be a wise person, and there's only a few who think of me as a total fool. A wise person considers all the possibilities in life. Then they decide on the best path to follow. We do this by trying to maximise the things we personally value most and minimise the things we do not desire. Then we strive to make the best possibility become reality in our own lives. To me, a child has a far greater value than anything else in life. Next would be the ability to follow my own path through life. As long as our actions do not cause harm to anyone else, I believe we all have that right. There are many things all humans desire and share in common. In fact, 99.9% of us want basically the exact same things. Yet, we are allowing ourselves to be controlled by that 0.1%. So none of us can get the most important things we value. Simply hear me out. Judge for yourself and form your own opinions from the facts. This video is the first in thewiseparent.com's political category, and I do apologise to those who have been waiting for our main parenting advice content. But in truth, this issue supersedes all my other concerns in life. If the 5G issue is not resolved in a positive manner, in my opinion, nothing I or anyone else can do will help you or your children. It was not my intent to get in as deep into politics as this video does, nor was it my intent to just jump into any such type of informational video without creating the subject background details first. In fact, politics was the last section on teaching knowledge a wise parent needs to understand on my agenda. But as stated prior, this matter is catastrophically critical to everything else. My life goal and purpose is children, which is why I focus on parenting advice. Politics and the legal system is something I've always considered below contempt and avoid like the plague. Yes, I am as guilty as the rest of us of avoidance. I invite you to join me on a short mental journey. I believe you desperately need to be aware of the dangers we currently face. I would like you to ponder the words, lest we forget. Most Australians believe it refers to the First World War and the Anzacs. But I would invite you to expand your horizons and consider the term literally and consider the possibilities. In my 60+ years of life, I've experienced and witnessed near every bullshit tale conceivable. My father's words, he was a World War II vet, and a dozen plus Anzacs themselves, whom I chatted with in my youth, all ring in my mind. They and I certainly held and hold a vastly different concept of the term lest we forget. Their memories did not recall heroes marching home from war. Far from it. The images of their mates' guts and brains splattered across mudflats, oceans running red with the blood of human cannon fodder, the gut-wrenching fear of not surviving the day, are the very least of the horrors war inflicts. The guilt they bore, both from what they personally did, and surviving when so many of those they loved did not. Their thoughts were not happy thoughts, nor were they particularly proud thoughts. In time their experiences and wisdom grew. They realised they too had been shafted, just like every other returned service person and everyone else throughout history. Don't take my word for it. Ask the vets and the old people you know. and request they give you their honest thoughts. Do they honestly think it was worth it? Was it a worthwhile issue in the first place? Wars and conflict are not fought over reasons of honour or integrity. They are simply started and nurtured for one reason only, and that is greed. Greed for power and financial gain, dominance over the people, and the self-aggrandizement of our leaders. History is very clear on this matter. A select few instigate conflict, the majority pay the blood price, especially the non-combatants. These select few are the leaders in industry, politics and religion. And yes, regardless of who wins the conflict, they always win, and the masses always lose. You and your children's children are part of the masses, always designated the loser in their struggle to get the biggest slice of the cake. In fact, in the very recent past, the USA, the UK and Australia, under our own biased, slanted organisations' rulings, i.e. the United Nations, we became war criminals after our unwarranted terrorist attack on Iraq. Yes, we instigated the current levels of terrorist attacks the rest of the world has seen. Or should I say, the patriots fighting back. The only truly negative thing concerning them I can say is I wish they would target the guilty parties and not the innocent. Ask yourself, is this really the destiny you want for your children's children? Currently, we live in a world of conflict. We are drowning in toxic waste, destroying the very food chain. Our atmosphere in many areas is not sustainable to human life. In fact, we are rapidly killing the very planet that we must have to survive. Out of all the possibilities life can give, do you willingly choose to simply allow power-crazed individuals to dictate such a life for those you love? Obviously not, I would hazard a guess. Most parents I know would lay down their lives for the children, and we strive in every way possible to give them a better chance at life than we have. So why, I ask, do we allow the greed of the few to dominate our very existence and hold us in thrall? Very bluntly put, and please excuse the crudity, we the people have been bent over and shafted throughout history. There is not one political organisation in the world that is not corrupt. That goes from the United Nations, the World Health Organisation, and or any other government-funded organisation, right down to your local community services. Our political, bureaucratic and legal systems are also corrupt, and for the most part bought and paid for by the moneyed groups in society, with most of them operating entirely outside the laws supposedly created for our benefit and safety, without concern for their actions or the results. Human welfare is the very least of their interest or concerns. We are consumers, nothing more. In fact, very similar in many aspects to a herd of pigs. We, for a large majority, feed on swill and garbage, blindly following our leaders down their preconceived paths. We happily pollute our own bodies and environment, gorge on the waste and swill in the communal feeding trough, and fight in the mud for the least scrap. But the worst thing by far we do is let them manipulate our very thoughts and greed. I truly believe this is humanity's last great chance. With the advent of the internet, we now have access to knowledge never dreamed of in our past. And knowledge is the ultimate power. We can also communicate across the world with a blink of an eye. We can actually see what life is like in detail, in that moment, anywhere in the world. But it can be used wisely, as a scholar does, or manipulatively, like capitalism and governments do. The people now have a real chance to decide their personal future, but only if they wake up in time and make it happen. The world is facing an entirely new era. There is nothing in our history that compares in any shape or form. Ray Kurzweil, commonly considered the smartest man who has ever lived, the key person behind Google's artificial intelligence, he stated, civilization will advance over 20,000 years in the next 100 years, compared to the last 2,000 years. We currently have the capabilities in our hands to determine any future we desire. But very shortly, if we do not take concentrated individual action, our corrupt leaders will decide what they want. It is time we got off our behinds, engaged our brains and actually considered the reality of our lives. The possibilities are truly boundless. But for your children's sake, you must at least demand and fight for their minimum rights of life. I, for one, do not trust our leaders in the slightest. It is a much safer gamble to sleep in a nest of vipers than trust a politician's words or motives. How many times do you actually need to be shafted before you personally wake up? A few months ago, one of my followers online advised me to check out a YouTube link concerning the new technology release G5. To put it bluntly, it has affected me far worse than when I first learnt about neonaticide a decade ago. It is truly soul-destroying. Many times in my life I have thought, there really is true wisdom in the saying that ignorance is bliss. But with ignorance comes only slavery and or death. There is truly none as blind as those who refuse to see. 5G is the game changer. In my research of over 100 hours on the topic leaves me with a feeling of abject terror. It generates images straight out of the Terminator movies and other futuristic scenarios. Putting this power in the hands of capitalism and our corrupt political system is like giving your 2-year-old the detonator to a nuke device to play with. I have listed the simplest and best explained descriptions of what we are facing, stated by world-recognized experts from my research. They can be found in the video links included in the comment section after this video. I highly recommend you watch them all. They will give you the reasons behind and clarify my following statements. 5G is a military-grade software, which besides allowing ourselves to be totally controlled physically and mentally, the side effects will cause a massive, if not critical, negative change to human existence and all life on this planet. And no, the results are inescapable. We currently exist in 4G technology, and sad to say, the side effects of even this level of technology are already causing massive negative health changes in the human species and environment. From terminal for many, progressively relenting to treatable, brain cancers, mental disorders like ADD and the full range of similar dysfunctions, up to autism in children, and heart attacks and Alzheimer's, DNA damage to sterility and breast cancer, to name but a few. Hundreds of thousands of scientific researched and documented studies dating back to the early 1920s clearly state the massive changes in mental and physical health caused by the electromagnetic frequency used in our power distribution and the microwave frequency used with anything relating to the internet and Wi-Fi. I have learned many things in this research that I was not aware of, things that have robbed me of my motivation in my purpose and has depressed me immensely. As prior stated, there is wisdom in the saying that ignorance is bliss. We will deal with the present issues first. At 4G level, there are things you can do to mitigate some of the damage. Please note, these steps are only band-aids. They will help short-term, but we need detailed, unbiased, independent research to fix the issues we all face, which boils down to major political change across the board. Please note, our children are the most susceptible, and the effects start prenatally. 1. Avoid Wi-Fi in any shape or form. Use a fixed wire connection wherever possible. If you're like me and are forced to have a Wi-Fi because I have no other sustainable option, turn it off all the internet-related functions when not in use. I do this at the power input point, but you can also turn it off on the device itself. Remove Wi-Fi totally from any environment where children congregate, i.e. kindergartens, schools. Use fixed wire to computer connection banks, not Wi-Fi. Until this is done, I highly suggest you homeschool your child. Do not use personal communication devices near your body. Use a speakerphone or a wired headset and hold it away from your body. Do not carry a mobile device on your body, and that includes in clothing, in pockets and bras. Do not keep it in your bedroom. Get yourself an alarm clock. Do not use it in any enclosed metal space, such as a car or an elevator. They are not toys. Keep it out of the children's reach. 3. Avoid smart technology as much as possible. In fact, I am personally implementing a total no-go in this area. I do not want or need it, and neither should you. 4. Avoid areas of communication towers. The experts differ from 3 to 10 kilometres before the negative effects are negated. It's a damn good opportunity in Australia to demand an overhaul and upgrade of our NBN, and not the transference to 5G technology. Fibre optics are by far the best current option available. Be a good idea to include an overhaul of the electric power distribution systems at the same time. And at the risk of sounding repetitive, I also highly advise all young parents to get out of the city and urban areas, move to the country areas. I'm afraid you simply cannot avoid the negative aspects in the highly toxic urban areas. 6. Electricity supply lines, transformers, dirty electricity are also a major issue. Obviously, avoid wherever possible. As stated, at 4G levels we can mitigate the negative effects on a personal level to some degree. But we need concentrated, unbiased research and restructuring to actually fix the issues. Your children will pay the biggest price if we do not address this immediately. Let's discuss 5G. As Ray Kurzweil stated, in the next 100 years, society will advance more than 20,000 years compared to the last 2,000. After my research, I state a society may survive, but it will not be a healthy humans population. Most likely it will be a robot or automaton looking after the few remaining relics of humanity. At current 4G levels, some scientists are concerned that our accumulated levels of DNA damage suggest that within 5 generations, that damage will result in a genetic sterilisation for a large percentage of our species. That is less than 100 years. 5G is a high level of microwave radiation, off the scales compared to the current levels. It has also had zero health and environmental safety testing done on its development. In fact, development-wise, the human and environmental factors do not even enter the picture. Where existing 4G levels of approved exposure were to a degree governed by law, 5G has been given carte blanche by the authorities. Its operating systems are thousands of times higher than any prior or currently acceptable level. I also note that not one service provider has been able to get insurance against litigation, due to the fact that the insurance consider the risk factors are too high. In selected cities in the USA, UK as well as Europe, against massive legal resistance, 5G has already been launched. Yes, I can see the benefits of 5G. The possibilities are astounding. It could be a gift of utopia for many, as it could easily create a life of leisure from womb to tomb, a world of no responsibility or effort on any individual's part. But like Pandora's box, it could very easily spell doom for all of humanity. At the very best scenario, I can easily see whole populations smiling and happy whilst they live in a cesspool, happy to live in a 6x4 room within an enclosed megalopolis, eating slops and marching to the same drum. Simply watch a few science fiction movies to get a grasp of the possible life options we face. Science fiction actually has a far greater rate of successful prediction than the NSA main computer. We need to study the effects, come up with safeguards and solutions before we blindly leap into the fire. With 4G, we are already running a high risk of human genocide. 5G technology is far too dangerous and there are no second chances. There is no government doing research on its long-term effects. In fact, there is zero research data being done at all on any of its effects, although many independent experts in various related fields are all screaming warnings of danger. The US government has responded to these warnings by actually passing a law prohibiting anyone from interfering or objecting. Sounds a lot like some recent additions to the Australian laws. For the naive out there, what the USA decide, the UK, France, most of Europe and Australia rapidly follow. In political reality, the USA owns Australia. They have even the power to sack our duly elected prime ministers. They bark and we wag our tail. I note China has already started applying 5G applications in full citizen monitoring and recording. All the above stated, I do not promote violence of any description. I have spent my life avoiding the negative human-generated pollution within society. But simply put, 5G removes the ability to avoid these and so much worse. You can only run so far. We are now on the very edge of the cliff. Your life, as well as your children's and their children, depend on your individual action now. You cannot run, nor can you hide. 5G is designed to generate an encompassing umbrella covering the whole planet. All options are closed. You either submit, becoming a mental slave or automaton, and die from some terrible disease, or you demand the right to your life and your children's future, and take the steps required to enforce that demand on an individual level. You have two options. Allow your slavery or do not allow. I have been predicting societal breakdown in Western society for a decade. People all over the world have had enough. Experts are currently stating that we are facing a massive economic collapse, on a level never experienced before in our history. Pollution is strangling civilization across many fronts, from islands of rubbish bigger than some US states floating in our oceans. Whole populations are unable to breathe the natural air that surrounds them, due to the levels of toxins in the atmosphere, and in some areas, even the rain is toxic to life. Capitalism is destroying the very world we must have to even survive. Even the corrupt UN recently put out a paper stating a dead world scenario by 2030. That's 2030. This is probably why the organisations behind 5G are pushing for its immediate release. Their last grasp at maintaining their power base. Our entire system of politics is corrupt. It does not work for the benefit of the people in any shape or form. In the West, we supposedly exist in a democracy, but in truth our legal and bureaucratic systems suggest it's a quasi-dictatorship and not a democracy at all. There is not one country in the Western world where the very basics of human rights is universal. In the AU, the so-called lucky country, for instance, 1 in 6 children live below the poverty line, and children die from neglect on a daily basis. We face a multitude of major issues that we simply choose to ignore in our ignorance. Do not doubt the ills of poverty is alive and well in every country on the planet. Our children are literally killing themselves to escape this life. Drug addiction, suicide, and crime rates have skyrocketed worldwide. But in reality, these issues are just tiny upsets in a box of thousands. At least 5G will make the rest insignificant. 5% of the population controls 95% of the world's wealth. And of that 5%, perhaps 0.005% control our very existence. They own our politicians and bureaucrats, bought and paid for. On top of this fact, they have literally and deliberately taken steps to allow them to steal every single individual's future. The world is full of fools, but I clearly state, in this case, you do not have the right to be foolish. After studying the 5G situation, all I can say is it will take more than anything I or any other individual can do to protect their child. We must all take a united stance, or our children are doomed before they even get a chance. A machine gun will be 100% obsolete in protecting your family and your basic human rights, if 5G becomes a reality in its current application. Children and humanity itself is under attack. There is zero doubt to this conclusion. We must try to resolve our problems in a non-violent manner. Revolution is only swapping one bully for another. But if our very future requires violence to ensure its security, well, sad to say, a parent must do what a parent must do. I will personally be continuing to take every step I need to protect my children and descendants. So far in my life, I have been always able to do this and remain relatively within the law. I honestly do not know if any of us will have that option in the near future. I doubt it. My father, as I, taught all our children to obey and honour society's laws. But if the laws are unjust, it is also our responsibility to change them until they become just. Australia and many other countries have recently added a lot of unjust and freedom-depriving laws to their legal system. These laws must be fought until they are either rescinded or made just. I can promise you this. If direct personal and individual action is not taken on a massive scale in these issues we all currently face, you and your children will pay a cataclysmic price. I humbly request you share this video and its contents everywhere you can. The more people who are aware and take action, the more chance our children and you have surviving this century. Demand a total ban on 5G technology until we fix a current life-threatening mess in technology. and fully investigate any further advances before releasing them into the public arena. My immediate recommendations are keep your children home from school until the schools are made safe. Note, as stated prior, this is only a short-term fix. For those of you who unthinkingly follow directions from your institutionalized employers, if these directions are against the best interest of humanity or society, simply stop it. I speak directly to the public media people. Where is your self-pride and that of the third estate? You are the worst offenders in denying human rights. Your very code of ethics demands impartiality. Yet you blatantly and consistently lie to your readers. You sell your very souls for peanuts. Shame on you. I also target those researchers who sell our well-being to the highest bidder. In fact, I am targeting all those who blindly follow others' agendas. For a few pieces of silver, you are condemning your children and ours to a life not worth living. Do not buy into 5G technology. Refuse it in your homes and in your neighbourhoods. Create local and national groups to voice your demands to your elected leaders, and refuse to take no for an answer. In political elections, only vote for independents. Do not vote for any party. And if you must, vote for the most powerful ones last. In Australia, use the under the line section of the voting card and ensure you fully number 1 through to 12. Regardless if you carry out due diligent research or not, this will greatly help the current situation. Do not give them an excuse to make your vote invalid. We must break the status quo before we can achieve anything. Number 4, of critical importance. Empower the Duty of Care Act and demand it's fully enforced with real deterrence. In this way we can constructively fight for truth and an intelligent, human-focused solutions to our issues. Demand a Bill of Rights for Australia and any country currently without such legislation. There is obviously much more we need to do as parents on the political front, and I will personally continue to investigate the possibilities for your consideration. It's past time humanity took control of our world and stopped allowing capitalism and politics to decide our very future and existence. The greed of the few will bury us all. This has been Daniel Warren from awiseparent.com. May the universe smile upon you and yours. God bless.